For more on the sell-off that we're seeing in Europe, let's bring in ABRDN Investment Director Luke Hickmore. He joins us now from Edinburgh. It's good to have you, Luke. What are you guys focused on as far as the spiral that's happening right now in European banks?
Credit Suisse, does it survive the week? And for me, that is the key point here. That, you know, as Juliana was just talking about, does the regulator step in? Do they organise a takeover? If this was a UK bank, that would have happened already. We saw that with SVB last weekend. HSBC came in and dealt with it. From a lot of pressure I hear from the Bank of England for somebody to do that. Swiss regulator, I think, has got a very different potential outcome here for them, considering the sheer size of Credit Suisse. So for me, it's all about Credit Suisse, how we get through this, what it looks like on the other side.
So is it your view that it's Credit Suisse and we don't have to worry about some of the other European banks? Because, you know, whenever there's one, you worry about contagion. We saw that in the U.S. in the past few days.
Yeah, and Credit Suisse is the victim of who goes next, the game that gets played every time in these crises. I think regulation for European banks is so good, capital is so high, they're generally in a really, really, really good place. Don't have the same kind of wealth exposure that Credit Suisse has got on the whole, which can cause its own problems with deposit flight. So I think, generally speaking, the banks are fine. We've been investing in the national champions, the BNPs, the Lloyds, the NatWests. These are all going to come through this absolutely fine. And I think it's really important that people realise that these are healthy banks. Credit Suisse, if you look at it, is a healthy bank. But if confidence goes, you need to come in and shore it up. If you can't do it, you need your regulator to do it. If the regulator can't do it, your government has to do it.
Already, you know, speaking of would-be beneficiaries, Luke, Wells today says that U.S. banks are stronger, have more capital, should gain share versus European banks, especially since the CS backdrop isn't new. And I know we're back to this conversation of how much U.S. banks can gain share, but do you think it's material?
Maybe. I think that's probably a little bit opportunistic from them. It's too early yet. And I guess if Credit Suisse did not finish the week in this current form that it's in, yes, of course, you could see people come in from the US and use their balance sheet to gain market share over in Europe, especially in fixed income trading. But it's a long way from that happening. And I think really what the industry should be doing now, right now, is getting people to be confident about its future, confident about how it can continue to service its clients and how investors can continue to provide them with financing.
So just to be clear, for transparency, what is your position in European banks right now, if any? Yeah,
so, I mean, let's deal with the elephant in the room. Credit Suisse, we have a lot of exposure through the senior bonds. We have some of the exposure through the AT1 bonds. We have, in fixed income, I would say banks are our largest overweight position right the way through most of our portfolios. So it's clearly a really important outcome for us. And generally speaking, these banks are in good places. They've built their capital up since the global financial crisis, and that's regulators have forced them down that road. But we do need to get through this Credit Suisse confidence gap.
I mean, why have you held Credit Suisse? It's been a disaster for months now. This is not a new issue.
An entirely fair question. It's been 30 years of problems at Credit Suisse. We looked at this coming into this year and thought we were past the peak of their issues. And I think in many, many ways we are past the peak of the knowable issues. And then SVB comes along. We have other problems in the US regional banking sector as well. People start looking across and confidence dries up in Credit Suisse. So we are a victim of circumstance, as I'm sure many will be this week. And I still think the fundamentals of this bank are really, really strong.
Yeah, you and their Saudi investor today. Luke, can Lagarde really go with 50 basis points tomorrow?
I think she's in a very unenviable position, isn't she? If we get no cut, people are immediately thinking, what do you know that we don't know? If you just get 25, that I think is probably a good halfway house for her. and it reflects the problems in the European banking sector that people are perceived to be there right now, without actually saying we're panicking. If there's no cut, no hike, hike, that would definitely feel a real problem for investors right now.